Hello and welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS. Before we begin today's daily quiz, there are a few important announcements. First, BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS is bringing for you the National Scholarship Test, which gives you a chance to win up to 90% scholarship on the BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS courses. This online test will be held on the 3rd of April 2022 at 11 a.m. The link to register for the test is given in the description of the video. Then, tomorrow, don't forget to join us at 8 p.m. live on the BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS YouTube channel, where Abhishek sir will be discussing with you biodiversity beyond borders topic in the explained session. And also, last but not the least, we're introducing for you a brand new series specifically for the Prelims 2022 examination. This is a limited time series where we will be releasing one episode every Friday till the Prelims 2022 examination. In this series, I will be discussing with you some important mnemonics, mind maps, tricks and tips that will help you remember more information for the prelims examination and that will help you solve some tricky questions in the prelims examinations. Don't forget to join for this series every Friday at 3 p.m. on the BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS YouTube channel. That is why if you have still not subscribed to the channel, do hit the subscribe button. Now let's begin the daily quiz. Question number 1. ISRO's project NETRA, recently seen in the news, is best defined as number 1. An early warning system in space to detect debris and other hazards to Indian satellites. Second, an early warning system in space to detect any harmful object coming towards the Earth, specifically India. Third, a part of India's indigenous navigation system. And fourth, a program to ensure 24/7 surveillance of India's border areas. The correct answer here is A. Project NETRA by ISRO is actually an early warning system which is used to detect whether or not there is a debris in space which can be harmful for India's satellites. It is covered in the Hindu newspaper today. The heading is ISRO steps up tracking of space debris through its project NETRA. As you know, for any country's satellite, the increasing amount of space debris poses a great danger because it can distract the satellites, can damage them, and can also force them to change their path, which can be detrimental to the entire project. NETRA here stands for Network for Space Objects Tracking and Analysis. It has a radar with a range of 1500 kilometers and an optical telescope which will be a part of this project and help ISRO in detecting all the space debris floating around specifically near the Indian satellite. The article says that these space debris, which are usually going on at a speed of 27,000 kilometers per hour in the low Earth orbit, pose a great threat such as collision, and even a small centimeter sized fragment can be lethal for that satellite program. Next, question number 2. Consider the following statements with regards to the Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana, also known as Ayushman Bharat. Number 1. Beneficiaries are offered reimbursement of their medical expenditures up to Rs 5 lakh per family. Second, the funding for the scheme is shared 60:40 for all the states and union territories with their own legislature, 90:10 in Northeast states and Jammu and Kashmir, Himachal and Uttarakhand, and 100% central funding for union territories without any legislature. Third, the National Health Authority has been constituted as an autonomous entity under the Society Registration Act of 1860 for effective implementation of the PMJAY Yojana in alliance with the state governments. Which of these given statements is or are correct? The correct answer here is B. 2 and 3 are correct. The first statement is wrong because the Ayushman Bharat Yojana or the Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana actually provides cashless treatment. So there are two types of insurances that you can have. One is cashless, where you don't have to pay anything to the hospital. The hospital will directly take money from the insurance company. And the second is when you pay money to the hospital, then you show these bills to the insurance agency and they will reimburse the money. The Ayushman Bharat scheme is of the first category. It is cashless. There is no reimbursement mechanism. The reason why we are asking this question is because of this article in the Hindu newspaper, which is an interview of the Chief Executive Officer of the National Health Authority. That is the agency that has been set up specially for the implementation of the Ayushman Bharat scheme along with the state governments. Next, question number 3. Consider the following statements with regards to the International Space Station. Number 1. The space station flies at an average altitude of 400 miles above the Earth. Second, an international partnership of 5 space agencies from 15 countries operates the International Space Station. Third, it can be seen from Earth without the use of a telescope by night sky observers who know when and where to look. Which of these given statements is or are correct? The correct answer here again is B. The first statement is wrong because it is at an altitude of 400 kilometers above the Earth and not 400 miles. The reason why the International Space Station is in the news is because after the Russia-Ukraine conflict, since a lot of Western countries have imposed a sanction on Russia, Russia has threatened that it will now move out of the collaboration of the International Space Station. Amongst the 5 space agencies that together run and operate the International Space Station, the Russian Space Agency also plays a major role. In fact, there were also news reports that because a Russian astronaut and 2 Russian cosmonauts have to come back to the Earth now from the International Space Station, the responsibility of this mission was on Russia. In fact, Russia had threatened that we will not bring back the US astronaut if the sanctions continue to be imposed on us. But common sense prevailed and the US astronaut and the 2 Russian cosmonauts are now back on Earth. The NASA astronaut was in the International Space Station for 355 days this time. Next, question number 4. Dearness Allowance or DA to central government staff is usually changed by the government on the basis of All India Consumer Price Index, Wholesale Price Index, Consumer Price Index for industrial workers, or the recommendation of the Central Pay Commission. The correct answer here is A. It is usually changed on the basis of the All India Consumer Price Index. Now, the reason why this is in the news is, as you would know, the Government of India announced yesterday that they are approving a 3% hike in their DNS allowance to all the central government employees. It is also an increase in the DNS relief, that is a DR, that is given to the pensioners. Now, when you read this article, there might be a slight confusion in your mind because it says that this increase is in accordance with the accepted formula based on the recommendations of the 7th Central Pay Commission. So the Central Pay Commission basically recommends a formula on the basis of which the government should decide the DA or the DR, but then the value of the DA or the DR is decided by the government, or the hike that is to be given in the DA or the DR is decided by the government on the basis of the CPI, that is the Consumer Price Index, and that is why the answer to this question is A. Next, we have a previous year question from the year 2020. The Vidhvansak, a first monthly journal to have the untouchable people as its target audience, was published by Gopal Baba Valankar, Jyotiba Phule, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, or Bhimrao Ramji Ambedkar. The correct answer over here is A. It is Gopal Baba Valankar who is behind the publishing of the first monthly journal which had its target audience as the untouchable people in the country. Now, he was a very well-known social activist, active from 1840 till the year of 1900. He developed a racial theory to explain the oppression of the depressed classes and also published this journal specially for the untouchable people. It was in 1888 that he began publishing the monthly journal that is titled the Vidhvansak, that is the destroyer of the Brahmanical or the ceremonial pollution. He also wrote articles for Marathi language newspapers such as Sudharak and Deen Bandhu. Next, we have a fact of the day, and today we will be discussing about how and why Vladimir Putin, that is a Russian president, is insisting that if any country wants to import the Russian gas, they must pay in rubles, that is a Russian currency, rather than dollar or euros. What exactly will be the impact of this decision on Russia, the Western nations, India, and how does China gain out of it? Now, as you know, the Russian invasion of Ukraine has ensured that Russia has been cornered in most parts of the world. The Russian banks have been sanctioned and have also been displaced from the SWIFT system. That is why for the Russian businesses now, to accept dollars or euros has become extremely difficult because they would not be able to use this currency for any of the transactions. And that is why they are now insisting that if anyone wants to buy natural gas or oil from Russia, they would have to pay in the Russian ruble only. As you know, the European Union imports 40% of its natural gas requirements from Russia only. The reason why Vladimir Putin is demanding this is, apart from the fact that dollar and euros will pose a problem to Russia now, Russia also wants to increase the demand of Russian currency in the international market. Ruble, that is Russian currency, has been weakening against dollar ever since Russia had invaded Ukraine. So at the beginning of 2022 year, 75 rubles were equal to $1. By 24th of Feb, that is the day that Russia invaded Ukraine, it had went on to 85 rubles equal to $1. Now, since the lowest point, that is 145 against a dollar, the ruble has become stronger comparatively. In fact, on Wednesday, it had recovered to a level of about 85 to a dollar. That is about the same level as it was when the war between Russia and Ukraine had begun. Russia is mindful of the fact that having dollar or euro reserves would not really help them right now. That is why there was a news that Russia has been asking its companies that take payment in dollar and euros to swap 80% of their revenues into ruble. Now, the question is, how will the European companies get ruble? Now, because of the sanctions, the Russian firms would no longer have to use dollar or euros. That is why European firms will have to find an intermediary, anyone who is willing to accept dollars from European companies and exchange it for ruble so that the ruble can be paid to the Russian gas agencies. Now, the most likely answer to this intermediary is Chinese yuan. Absorb all these dollars and euros from the European countries and then in exchange return it for ruble that will be given to Russia. That will further increase the dependence of the European countries on China because Europe right now has not been able to find any other alternative for the supply of natural gas as it has from Russia. Now, the impact on India will also be very interesting. That is because a Russian crude oil is available at a deep discount to India as compared to Brent or the West Texas Intermediate. Now, the problem that India will face is that if we have to give ruble to Russia, we have to first conclude what is the value of the ruble. Now, right now, in order to calculate the value of any currency, you had to translate it against a dollar. For example, you would say that about 78 rupees equal to a dollar or 85 ruble equal to a dollar. But now that dollar is not being accepted from Russia, now the intermediate currency that will be pitted against the two to calculate the real value will be the Chinese yuan. So the benchmark would now be yuan to calculate the real value of the Russian ruble. India used to have a rupee-ruble direct trade ever since the 1960s at a time that the exchange rate was not really determined by the market. That was a time when India used to be a very close friend of the Soviet Union and we were dependent on them for most of our import needs. However, since India has allowed its currency to be floated on the market demand and supply formula, we have not been able to carry on with the rupee-ruble agreement. The direct rupee-ruble trade, in fact, was formally taken off in the year 2005. So it will be interesting to see how India manages to get a lot of rubles because if we are importing so much oil and gas from Russia, even though at a discounted price, that means India would also need to find a supply of rubles so that we can pay for it to the Russian government. The long-term consequences will be there for everyone to see for this move. But one thing is for sure that China is emerging as an indispensable country to Europe, Russia, and even for India as well. This is it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching.